Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel for another Game Week 9 preview. Today I'm joined by Wes, FPL Heisenberg, who's going to be giving us some tips and advice, but also running through his own team, which, to be fair, is in a little bit of a predicament because there's no easy route to Mo Salah. We're going to get into all of that. First of all, Wes, how are you doing? How was the international break? And how was last week? A tough one.
Yes, last FPL game week was a shocker, very frustrating. But yeah, apart from that, international break's been good. My team is in decent enough shape, but yeah, last week I just seemed to dodge points left, right, and centre. It was just one of those weeks.
Yeah, I've got it up on screen now. Anything in particular that you think went wrong, or just, yeah, as you say, one of those weeks where, I mean, the team looked fine on paper, looked good on paper, if anything, and, well, yeah, it looked very good.
It did, yeah. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to cut. I've
It was a
tried
while
to.
ago. Yeah.
I've tried to block it from my memory as well. I think the only returns I haven't actually got my score in front of me, but I think the returns were from the three Spurs. Well, some wasn't a return. The two Spurs lads, Madison, Udogie, and then Watkins with an assist. But
Yeah.
yeah, really frustrating week. Like I said, it could have been decent on paper, and a predicament now this week. But yeah, nothing really went. Even the returns were quite small, weren't they? A 5-pointer from Watkins, 6-pointer from Madison and Udogie. It's not. There wasn't like a couple of players who bailed me out. If Madison and Watkins went really big or something, then it would have just about bailed me out. But they didn't. Or sorry, Son being the captain, he could have bailed me out. But yeah, poor week.
I think it's just one of those swingy weeks, really, where if you had a player that did all right, like if you had a Salah, you were kind of okay. Like people that kept hold of Sterling and players like that.
Yeah, about to say that. Yeah.
Bit of luck, but also, like, you know, you make your own luck in this game, really. Not the biggest of red arrows, because it was quite a small, low scoring game week overall. But
Yeah.
overall, your rank right now, do you care too much? We only had 8 game weeks.
Yes and no, because it's very difficult. Yes, we can say rank doesn't matter, and yes, big swings can happen. And yes, I'm still going to play my normal game and hopefully climb the ranks pretty well. But yeah, it just makes having, come the end of the season, getting a top 10K finish, getting a top 50K finish, it makes it that little bit harder when the start of the season has been bad.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's fine margins, isn't it? Because if last week was a green hour, like a decent green, then you're up into a decent enough rank to then kick on. So yeah, it's precarious. But yeah, like I said, it's yes and no, because you can see in the space of 3, 4, 5 weeks, this can all turn around. So not all doom and gloom, but yeah, it is frustrating to be ranked poorly at this stage of the season.
Sure thing. All right, let's have a look at your team for the upcoming game week. It looks really strong. I think we talked about this before when you did your wild card, that you had a lot of coverage, really. You had a strong side in general. Talk to me first of all about who you're thinking of benching. According to Fantasy Football Hub's AI tool, Alvarez has the lowest predicted points of your front eight.
He is currently sat on my bench.
Okay.
I tweeted right at the start of the international break, I think Mboma was on the bench, but that fixture's just too strong. With Alvarez playing in, I think he played, was it 80-ish minutes yesterday in South America. Will that have any bearing on Pep? And also Pep's got a little bit more choice now in those positions. When I first got on Alvarez back in game week 3 or 4, it was when the likes of Grealish was injured, the likes of I don't think they'd really signed Nunes at that point, or maybe they had, and he's a new player. Doku was still new, but now it feels like City have a little bit more depth there. So maybe I still fear that he does start. But I need to bench someone out of that front 8, and I don't know. I think it's kind of either Diaby at home to West Ham isn't an amazing fixture, I guess, and I've already got Watkins, so maybe him, maybe Mbomo still, because of his recent form's not been great, but his underlying numbers are still decent, and it is Burnley at home, so that's difficult to bench. Bruno's been disappointing, but it's Sheffield United away, so that's a really difficult benching, and he did well in the international break as well. And then you've got Alvarez, who are in an ideal world I would play, but I gave myself this headache last week with my 2 free transfers, kind of on purpose. I went Archer up to Watkins.
That was as well. Yeah, okay.
And then I can't remember what my other transfer was now. I got Diaby in, and yeah, so essentially I've got 8 strong attackers, which isn't a tactic I like. It isn't a tactic I plan on keeping long term. What I will do at some point is take money out of one of those front 8 go down to the likes of Chukwuemeka from Chelsea midfield to sit on my bench, go down to Archer again, go down to even Mubama again, um, Anderson from Newcastle, basically cheap as you can get, really, and then and then not give myself a benching headache. But what this does allow that if in the news, obviously we're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, if some news comes out about a slight knock to say Diaby or Mbomo, then or Alvarez, one of those sort of players gets a little slight knock or whatever, it's not a problem. I've got the coverage to do that, and I don't have to rush into a transfer or rush into a -4 that I don't want to do or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the fact that you don't have one man in particular, the team looks unbelievable. Let's talk about Salah. Do you have any sort of kind of plan to get him in? Obviously, this week you can't get him in. The team looks way too strong, and you're benching an amazing asset anyway. But after that,
so well, even this week I've still been tempted to, and I've been using the international break to pretty much every day. There's screenshots on my phone of sort of moves to potentially get Salah in. But essentially, I've come to the conclusion after looking at all the. I'll give some examples of what it might look like. It would be say, because I've barely got any money in the bank either. I've only got 0.3, so it would be if I had to get him in, I'd have to remove say Bruno and Son and get Salah, and then I think I could afford maybe a Souček or, like I said, a Chukwuemeka and just bench him, and then use my benching asset. So yeah, it'd be difficult. That move is a -4. It does remove the benching headache, and it does get Salah in, but it removes two really strong players in Son and Bruno. Not obviously Bruno. I wouldn't class Bruno as a really strong asset these days, but
this
remove
week,
him as part of a -4.
Can't do that this week, surely.
No, again, ahead of Sheffield United, so that move isn't in any way ideal, and isn't something that I'd want to do. And again, another sort of -4 that would be lined up would be say again Watkins down to the likes of an Archer, and then obviously. But Alvarez would then come off my bench, and then I'd use that money to upgrade. I think I could then afford Bruno to Salah. I think that works out. But again, it's getting rid of Bruno before Sheffield United. And as my team's on screen, right, so you can see that all of them have solid fixtures.
Yeah, and even the ones
and even if I did want to get rid of, it's just not easy. I can't even if I wanted to get rid of say Mbomo for Salah, that would have to be part of a -8, or it would mean removing Haaland. So I can't even afford, say, Son and Mbomo, even if I wanted to, which I don't. Even if I wanted to afford that, I couldn't. It would have to be part of a -8. I think Trippier is a little bit of a miss from my team as well. I do have Shah. It's been kind of unlucky how it's fell in terms of Shah got his attack and return in the Champions League. So in terms of if that was an FPL game against PSG, Shah obviously got a goal, would have got like a 8-9 pointer. Trippier would have got a 2-pointer. So that sort of variance has worked against me in the Champions League, where the points would have obviously don't
crazy
count.
Goal as well. Imagine that in FPL, your defender scores that sort of goal. You're just going, wow.
And that is the good thing about Shah is, although he's a centre back, you do, and Newcastle comfortably winning that game. It was the last minute, and he was getting forward. I remember it towards the end of last season as well. I think they were 3-0 up at home to someone, and he hits the bar from a shot inside the box, and it wasn't even
back to him. It
wasn't
from
a corner.
The box.
He just roams forward, and I'm sure it's crazy to see when a team is like winning and they're not just sort of defending for their lives. But I've got I feel a bit hard done by with the Shah versus Trippier. Yes, we know Trippier is the better FPL asset, of course, but that money saving on Shah, and we do know Shah does have a goal in his locker. I was hoping it would balance, over the course of a 5-6 game week period. I was hoping the points would be closer between those two. So hopefully Shah's the one who gets an attacking return this week, and maybe Trippier doesn't. But yeah, it's one of those. Like I said, the routes to Salah, I could run through. Like I said, I've got loads of screenshots on my phone if I wanted to do it, but it would require at least a -4, which is something that's obviously a negative, potentially -8, and it would require taking out players with plum fixtures, or taking out the best asset in the game, which is Haaland still for me. So and I think, last point of this, I think there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks about maybe removing Haaland. I think the week to do that, if you were to do it, was last week before that tricky fixture against Arsenal. Haaland's fixtures as a collection of the next 5 game weeks aren't great, but if we look at actually the immediate game week, Brighton at home, very good fixture, and then also within the next 3 game weeks, so 2 of the next 3 include Bournemouth at home and Brighton at home. They've got 2 of the worst 4 defences in the league in terms of goals conceded. I think it was only could be slightly wrong in this, but I think there's 2 teams worse. I think it's just Luton and Burnley. Actually, it's not Luton and Burnley. It's Sheffield United and Burnley. Sorry, these 2 defences have actually conceded more than Luton. So if we're targeting Luton, as we should, then for goals, then we should be targeting
Good point.
Brighton and Bournemouth for goals because they've conceded more.
Yeah, very
Um,
valid. Well,
so
that's what I was going to
yes,
ask you actually, because I don't. Looking at your team personally, I would say there's no way you'd. I mean, genuinely, I don't even know if I'd use a transfer. If you had two frees, I wouldn't jump for Salah this week. I think that if you're losing Son and Fernandes, that makes no sense given that their fixtures. I know obviously Salah is Salah, but I wouldn't lose those two players this week. Next week though, it gets interesting. Gameweek 10, and obviously we'll do a video next week and we'll go into more detail. But just as like a brief answer, are you looking at getting him in next week? Like, how likely do you think that is? Because before we start recording, you said to me off camera that you might have to go without him in general. Is that a possibility?
No, well, I might have to go without him in general. I think when we were chatting off camera, I meant this week.
Oh, okay, I see.
But in terms of long term, Bruno's fixtures.
He's the one, isn't he? So okay, yeah, that makes sense. You could fund him, but the thing is, you couldn't do Bruno to Salah and then like an Alvarez down or a Diaby. No, you'd have to, as you say, you'd have to go for like a Son or a Madison down, which is that's a big expenditure or a big player to lose.
Exactly that. So with the 2 free transfers next week, if I did want to do it, it would be Son and Bruno who would have to make way. I wouldn't have to find out of my second replacement, my second transfer. It doesn't have to be a good player because obviously, like I keep saying, I've got this solid front 8, and it's a little bit too strong for my liking, which is something that was obviously only meant to be a very temporary thing for last game week and this game week. So yes, I could use my 2 free transfers, Bruno, Son to Salah, and then just to save money, I think I could afford up to the likes of a 5.2 million-ish midfielder.
Yeah, you got 5.4 roughly, I think. Well, according to the tool here.
Yeah, I think that's right. So I could afford someone like a Souček who's doing okay and got decent fixtures. But so that's an option, or just go super cheap, chuck Maker, and just he can sit on my bench. It depends how badly I feel I'll need the money. However, getting Salah in week 10 means foregoing Arsenal assets, so I won't have the likes of Saka for their run. But again, I feel like I want to give a message of sort of almost support to other people in my position where I don't think you need to. There's a lot of talk on Twitter about Arsenal's fixtures turn great for Gameweek 10, Liverpool's fixtures do, etc., etc. However, my team without any Liverpool or Arsenal kind of proves that you can have a good team without those players. I know it scored very badly last week, but that doesn't make it a bad team.
It's one game week. It's one game week.
Yeah. So exactly that. So it's more a case of yes, I would like, of course, Saka, Martinelli, Salah, but I'd also like the players I have in my team. I mean, I could do something. I could make some moves, maybe with 2 free transfers and a -4 next week. I go the likes of a Bruno, Mbeumo, Shah to maybe Tsimikas, Salah, and then a decent mid-price midfielder, maybe a Ward-Prowse if that works out financially, something like that. But we'll see.
That's interesting. It's food for thought. Yeah, I feel like it would be a little bit short-sighted to try and force Salah in this week, just given how strong your squad looks overall. You've got a gaming rating of 95% with Alvarez on the bench. I don't think you need to do it. Although he obviously is a massive player that could haul at any point. It's a good fixture, but you can't be selling the likes of Son Fernandes, surely.
Yeah, I don't think so. So I think what I'll do is I'll hope for minimal damage from Salah.
Yeah.
Hope for maybe 1 assist or just 1 goal, sort of 7 points or less. If that's the case, then happy days. I've still got players who can, match that. And it isn't going to be an absolute killer. Obviously, if he gets a brace, which is more than capable of doing, it's just one of those things. I just like you say, I don't think I can shoehorn him in.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I think my biggest dilemma this week is actually just on who to bench.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really. If Alvarez scores well, and I've benched him, it's always going to be like, well, why did I bench him? I've just spoke about how Brighton's defensive record hasn't been great. I think they've got no clean sheets this season. I believe conceded more than Luton, like I said, and then I'm going to bench a player in great form so far this season. Yeah, it's sort of the travel from South America that's given me a partial reason.
That's completely fair, I think, because if you're not sure, then surely you do go down to expected minutes. Although I would say that West Ham they are good. They're decent defensively. Yes. I know Villa. The thing is, Villa are very good at home, though. But yeah, I think for me it's between Diaby and Alvarez. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just a gut one that you have to be kind of content with your decision. Let's talk about
Yeah,
captaincy
exactly.
because I feel like the only reason why you would try and force Salah in this week is if you weren't comfortable captaining Haaland. Are you
Yeah,
comfortable
but
captaining him?
I am. Any home fixture for Haaland's a great fixture. He's still scored plenty of goals so far this season, but I think he's underperformed his XG. And there's been so many instances. I think a few people went against him when he was away at West Ham. I stuck with him in that game.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
And that was a bit annoying because he only got the one goal and he missed some like a couple of
it's
open
five big
goals. It was really,
chances or something like that.
yeah, it's
Unbelievable.
really frustrating. So yeah, I think Brighton at home is a good enough fixture as captain Haaland. And even if I did have cold feet there, I'd happily captain Son at home to Fulham or even the likes of Madison. So yeah, and that's another reason why a -4 wouldn't make sense for me to get Salah in because I still wouldn't, even if I did shoehorn him in, I'm still not going to captain him. I'm still going to captain Haaland. So
Yeah.
yeah, it would be like you say, it's a different story. Yeah, I've been kind of hoping for like a Bruno and Son little injury on the
Oh,
international
really?
break, so I
What
can
to force it?
guilt free get him in.
No, you want them fit. You
Just
want Bruno
because
fit. You want Bruno to back. This is Bruno's
I know,
week. This is
I
his
know.
15, 20 pointer. It has to be.
Yeah,
This is the
I'm not too
patient week. Do
confident. Hopefully,
you not think?
I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful, but yeah, he has been a frustrating one, and I think it will have to be if there's another blank against Sheffield United, and then the next game is Man City. I think
Yeah.
he has to go, even though could make an argument to hold Bruno for 5 fixtures because after the Man City game, he does have Fulham away, Luton at home, then Everton away. So the fixtures are still somehow. It feels like Man United have had good fixtures pretty much all season. I don't know. It just
Yeah,
feels
I
like
think
that in
it's
my
fine.
head.
It's fine to get rid of him after this game. To be honest, I'd probably get rid of
Yeah,
him no matter what happened to fund a Salah move. But
yeah,
you really
exactly
need
that.
and you probably deserve, to be honest, at this stage, some kind of farewell points from him. Imagine a nice little
Yeah,
15 pointer before you send him on his way and get Salah, and
that would be lovely.
that would be lovely. But yeah, I think overall the team looks really strong. Team rating of like 96, 97% based on zero transfers down the line, really. So that could
Mm,
go even higher. You
yeah,
wildcarded slightly earlier than the majority of people. Are you still happy with your team? Did you like
yeah,
the coverage of the three Tottenham, the three Villa?
yeah. And I'm still happy a wild card in week 5, but it's as with it, people playing their wild card say this week in 4 or 5 game weeks time, you'll look at your team and think, a wild card could make this even better by changing 5 players. And obviously, I'm in that boat now, but you can't have a wild card every week. You can't, and again, those people who save it will say game week 18 or 19 will, all of us who have used it in game week 5, 8, 10, or whatever will be thinking, oh, I wish I had a wild card. It's just always that one of those things, and my team needed one. I guess the last point I wanted to just bring up quickly, this just flashed up to me is Estupinian's obviously third on my bench
Yeah,
this week
yeah,
with a
fair.
City away, and then I think according to reports he was going to miss Fulham at home, which was a bit frustrating. But the fixtures are still decent after that, so I think I'm likely to hold. However, he could be um, a make way because he is injured. Because Brighton aren't great at the back, I don't mind getting rid of him if it does fund a better move. Him to Simicast with Robertson injured, or him down to a really cheap defender
Yeah.
is another option as well, which puts money into the coffers to get Salah, like I keep saying.
He's an interesting one because now that you've kept him for a couple of game weeks anyway, where he's been out, and obviously the Brighton's fixture turn is so good from 10. It must be
Yeah,
tempting to. We know his potential. We know his whole potential. Obviously, it's going to probably be between Shah and Estupiñán. If you go down that route of selling a defender to fund Salah, it's probably going to be one of those, just because they're obviously a little bit more
yeah,
expensive. But
yeah.
I'd be so tempted to get rid of Share and keep Estupiñán and just like he's quite a
Yeah,
bit of a differential now as well. But you don't. I mean, game week 10 wildcarders, they probably won't have him because I don't think
no,
he's
they
going to
won't have
be
him.
necessarily fit.
Yeah,
I don't like game week 8 wildcarders definitely don't have him. The majority of the game doesn't have him. It's got to be tempting.
yeah, exactly that. I think I'd rather, if I had to sort of say now, do I want to keep him or want to sell him? I want to keep him. It's just what it's the only way I'd get rid of him. It wouldn't be like me looking to sell him. It would more be a case
Yeah,
of, right, how do I raise money for Salah, for example?
yeah,
And does a Stupinian down to a cheap option make sense? And it might do if he's still injured and Shah isn't. But yeah, if Shah can, if I get a bit of luck and a Stupinian's actually back quicker than was first said, then maybe he's back for Fulham or at the very worst Everton in 2 or 3 game weeks time. And at that point, Shah has Arsenal at home. So yeah,
Mm.
if I have to make a decision in that week, it will be Shah out instead of a Estupinian because, like you said, they're pretty much the same price. I think they're the same selling price for me anyway. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, he'd more likely leave my team. I guess Newcastle are better defensively for clean sheets, but Estupinian's just got that
The
great attacking
upside.
threat, hasn't he? And the better fixtures from that game week.
Yeah.
From sorry, yeah, sort of 10-11 onwards.
I think to be fair, his minutes are a little bit more up in the air now, just with Europe, and we've seen him come
Yes,
off at half time and stuff, and Lamptey's fit as well, and playing at left back at some points, which is a little bit concerning. But
it is.
I don't know. We know what he can do. He's just one of those players that if you play him 3-4 weeks in a row and he goes 2-2-1 and then goes 18,
Explodes. Yeah.
it's just so possible with him. But yeah, it's one of the. I think he's such a fun pick to own when he's more of a differential. I mean, that is just such a good pick to have in your team. Anyway, let's finally have a look at your AI recommended transfers, because it's not a move that you're going to make, right? But I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I think this right here is an example of a human versus the AI and how different they can be. So the recommended transfer is actually to make a transfer. So it's not recommending to bank. That is the alternative option. But first and foremost, it's recommending you make a move. Now, there's no way you'd ever guess this move. It's literally impossible. But it's saying to sell Udogi for Pedro Porro.
Yeah.
Now, it's let me first, before I get you, let me explain this, because if you can see on screen, guys, the predicted points of Udogi versus Porro now are such. Well, the difference is such that the AI thinks that over a 5 game week period, it is actually worth doing. If we look here, Porro is predicted 4.6 points this game week. Udogi just 4. So that difference of like 0.6 roughly per game week over 5 game weeks or whatever is adding up to be quite a substantial points difference overall. Thoughts on the last game where we saw Porro getting into really attacking positions? He had that big chance very early on as well.
Yeah,
he is more likely to score than Udogi.
Yeah, which would have been a Son assist, I think, that one. So
Yeah.
I was hoping that was going to go in with Son captain. Yes, if I was picking, if it was impossible to roll a transfer in this game, then I'd consider that. But yeah, with the power of rolling a transfer and the fact that it will allow me to get Salah next week without a -4, by doing Udogi to Porro this week, I'm essentially losing 4 points on next week's transfer to get Salah, or just not getting Salah that week. So yeah, for me, that cost me 4 points down the line somewhere else, more likely. And does Porro get 4 more points than Udogi over the next 5 game weeks? I guess it's possible, but
that's what it's saying, really. I think that's what
transfer.
That's what the tool's saying, that it thinks he thinks he does, or he gets close, and that reason it's worth going for rather than banking. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Like again, I would never do this move, but I think importantly as well, it's also saying that if you are now picking between a Tottenham fullback, there is a clear winner despite the price difference.
I think if I was on a wildcard this week and had the choice between both the Spurs fullbacks, then it would be Porro I went for, because like I said, the attacking threats are greater, as we saw from the Luton game, and as we know. Just checking their prices for both of them. Yeah, I think maybe because obviously Udogi started at 4.5, it's now actually 4.9.
Yeah.
If you're buying one from fresh this week, you'd have to spend 4.9 on Udogi versus 5.1 for Pedro Porro. So they're much closer in price now than they was a few game weeks ago. But yeah, for me, it would use up an extra 0.3 million. My selling price for Udogi is only 4.8. So yeah, like you said, you wouldn't do it.
No,
I wouldn't do it.
It's too sideways, but it's funny because like we would never do that move. Rolling is 100% the player for your team, but just a little option there that the AI has suggested to make you think anyway.
Yeah, I think when it's an option, Udogi has attacking threat of his own as well. If it was like
it's true.
I don't know, a boring centre back who has very little attacking threat, and then the transfer recommendation is to move to the more attacking defender from that team. Let's say that back at the start of the season, when if you could choose Dunk or Stupinian was the one getting the attacking points, wasn't he, in those first few weeks? So something like that as a sideways transfer does make sense. But this one, I'm still happy that probably both Porro and Udogi will get some attacking returns over the next five, 4 or 5 weeks. And yeah, it's just not my style to hop from one to the
No.
other unless the other option is super, super strong. If he was playing out of position as a winger or something, a bit like Chilwell was earlier in the season, something like that, then maybe. But for me, it's too sideways. It uses up a valuable transfer and it uses up a little bit of valuable money for me as well.
It's a funny one because like, I would never do this, as I've said, and you wouldn't either. But would you be surprised if in 5 game weeks Porro has 4 more points minimum over Udogi? I would not be. Therefore, is it not
No,
worth it? I mean, who knows?
I wouldn't be. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I
But
would
yeah, for
expect
me,
it.
it's
I'm not
still
going to lie, I
not
would expect it.
worth it.
But yeah, that's fair enough. Well, there we go. That's going to do it for this one. Guys, if you would like your own AI recommended transfers, you don't have to do them, obviously. Like, Wes is not going to, not for 1 second there did Wes even entertain the fact that he would do that. Not trying to sell the product or anything. It's just another option. Gives you an idea. Some weeks, like this week, it's kind of obvious that, well, in my opinion anyway, that roll is the best move for your team. But gives you something to think about. And of course, it's always personalized to your team. It's very easy. All you have to do is just plug your team in, use your FPL ID, and it's all there for you. Link to do so, sign up, is down below. 7-day free trial as well. So if you don't like it, you can stop paying for it. It's easy. Wes, thank you very much. Good luck next game week. Very excited to see your transfers for game week 10. And of course, your final team reveal will be posted on the website as well. And we'll know at that point who you're going to bench. I think a lot will depend on team news, but right now Alvarez is on the bench, right?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not happy about it. So I don't know.
You can never be happy when you're benching a Man
one.
City attacker who has a good, decent chance of starting against Brighton at home. Let's be honest, but yeah, that's a problem with 8 attackers. It's a good problem to have a lot of the time, but yeah, I remember like benching Bamford against Leicester a few seasons ago when he scored 2 goals, and I was just like, what am I doing? Why am I benching this guy? It was a shambles.
It's tough.
It is tough. That is the game, though. Anyway, mate, thank you very much as always. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on the next one.